certainly the message from the Fed is pretty consistent that they want to start the tapering process of balance sheet reduction. They definitely want to start that. The embedded question within that is, do you do that at the same time as another rate hike? And the answer to that is probably no. And particularly no if PCE comes in on the soft side, core inflation is relatively weak, wages are benign. You would try and separate those two decisions and have balance sheet reductions starting in September at a very slow and gradual pace. And indeed, a number of Fed officials have compared this process to watching paint dry. That's certainly what they want, whether it's that's a reality or not. Our analogy would be boiling the frog, because eventually it will kill the frog in terms of asset price inflation, but it may take a long time in doing that.
And we do talk about the inflation question here, and it wasn't so long ago that the Fed was looking at inflation pickup coming from reform of taxes, some stimulus coming on the fiscal side, and now Gary Cohn is saying that's going to be the focus this week. If Gary Cohn's right, if the administration can start to build momentum again on the tax side of things, do you think that picture could change for the Fed,
Well,
Sri?
certainly. I mean, if Gary Cohn does say something in terms of a timeline or sketch out a roadmap on tax reform, then that will be interpreted positively for the markets, because it will be a signal that perhaps A, he is staying in the administration and not going when many others are leaving, and B, it will give the market something to chew on. But my question to Callum is really, even in the best case scenario, if we do see tax reform, if we do see tax cuts, it's happening at the later stage of the economic cycle, and that carries with it the risk of inflation undershooting and implications for the Fed as well.
I would totally agree with all of that, but I would stress the front part of your comment, which is even if. Our best case is that tax reform of any kind, whether it's a simplistic tax cuts or whether it's a more complicated, nuanced package of tax reform measures, is unlikely to happen until the first half of next year. Sure, they want to get this over the line. Whether they'll be able to do so given the failure over healthcare repeal and reform, etc., remains to be seen. But if that happens, as you said, it's a late stage in the economic cycle. It could cause some degree of inflation, particularly when the labour market is so tight. So that's a potential threat. The market seems to be taking a relatively sanguine approach to that prospect at the moment.